They call a boule song. Listen to this. From far and near, you've traveled here, over rough and rocky road, to reach the open portals of Sigma Pi Phi blessed abode. Our hearts, our homes, to you belong, and glad we are that you have come to share our fellowship song, to share our fellowship song. Each archon who has dared to taste of the cup that threatened death, dear Sigma Pi Phi will defend with his life and dying breath. Should any for a Greek assail, his cunning words shall not avail. Our ears are deaf to envy's tale, even deaf to envy's tale. You hear that? They're saying, y'all gonna jam us for being a Greek, and we're telling you now, we can't hear this shit. And we won't listen to this shit, because we'll defend what we are to the death. Long as you call a decision, I'll bring you the game. I'm going to read that again, because there's symbolism in here that we have yet to fully decodify. It says, each archon who has dared to taste of the cup that threatened death. In the ritual, they must use some cup with some liquid to symbolize something. And say, you tell, that's poison in the cup. Dear Sigma Pi Phi will defend with his life and dying breath. Should any for a Greek assail, they put Greek in quotation marks. Should any for a Greek assail, his cunning words shall not avail. Our ears are deaf to envy's tale, even deaf to envy's tale. Though elsewhere bickerings annoy, here at least are peace and joy. Where friendships built on faith abound, strife and discord near are found. Then drink together, archons dear, the cup of fellowship and cheer. For as the apple of the eye is to us Sigma Pi Phi. For as the apple of the eye is to us Sigma Pi Phi. The apple of the eye. What do that mean?
It means the best thing to him. The apple of my eye. You know, that's the prettiest thing. Like the prettiest girl or something. It's the best thing that could ever happen. The other thing when they say
the house, the boat, the yacht, the cars.
The death from the cup, that's what that symbol you had, the skull and cross, that's the poison symbol. It's on everything.
Yeah.
The cup is representative of the grave.
Of the grave? Grail. It's interesting that he brought up the word that the cup is symbolic of the grail. Because what we found out is that when you're a skull and bones, when you go over, you're called a knight. And the knight is symbolic of the knight of the round table. And that round table is the code word or the buzzword for an upper secret society that's in a book called Anglo-American Establishment, written by Carroll Quigley. And in that book, he said, in the opening, that secret society of which the Rhodes Scholars come from is known as several names. This society has been known at various times as Milner's Kindergarten, as the Round Table Group. Okay, just hold it right there. Look at that page a second if you can read it, because that page is very significant to the discussion of who it is might be the ones that the boule has to cover for. In other words, they're covering for something. Now we know whatever they're covering for is beastly. Check. Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay. Now that's from Carroll Quigley's book. That was the guy who Clinton thanked during his inauguration. I mean, when he won the Democratic convention, he thanked Carroll Quigley in his speech. He said, Carroll Quigley is the guy that got me over to Yale. Got me to Oxford. And it was Carroll Quigley, who we showed here, has been called the Joe Valachi of political secret societies by his buddies for revealing the fact that there was such a secret society. I thought it was interesting that everybody through reading that? Well, I've said it every lecture I ever had a lecture. Now we only better collaborated the ones who we were always after. That's why I know we got these suckers. In the book by Manly Palmer Hall on the flower plants, fruits, and trees, there was a tree showing the Knights of the Round Table. What I thought was interesting when I looked at the tree carefully is that in your mind we always thought about the tree in 12. But if you look carefully, it says the tree of the Knights of the Round Table, you find out that there are 1 knight, 2 knights, 3 knights, 4 knights, 5 knights, 6 knights, 7 knights, 8 knights, 9 knights. Ooh. Those 9 represent the symbolic 9 that's used in the Grecian Sphinx, which we'll be talking about shortly. Now we're going to show from that eulogy of Charles Wesley's. In that same book, that same night, we found this in tribute to Wesley. Look carefully at the wordage. I'll give you a second to read it.
Table round.
You find that for some reason they take Alfred Lord Tennyson and put him on the left side and put Wesley on the right side, and the only thing is similar in both discussions is the damn word round table. Model for a mighty world. What's that in the man's hand? What's that in the man's hand? Brother Quasey, does that have any symbolism there, that little spike with the light on it?
Oh, yes, sir.
What would that mean?
Prometheus. Prometheus is the one who stole the light. All the Greeks had to pass burning sands coming across the Sahara to Mount Olympus, where the light was from Ethiopia. That's why we got the Statue of Liberty, because the French gave America the Statue of Liberty because they are the land base. They got the new light.
Oh, shit. You see what happened? Where's the light going from which hand to which hand? It's going from the left to the right. So the white man just stole the light and he gonna let the boule hold on it. When it was theirs from the jump. And that's what the stolen legacy does. It empowers one who's thieved. Now, whatever they're saying up there, it must be in code, because it don't make no damn sense when you read it. In the fair order of the table round, a glorious company, the flower of men, who rode about redressing human wrong. They spoke no slander, nor listened to it. When served as a model for a mighty world, they loved one maiden only. One maiden. What is that? What is a maiden? What's a maiden?
A woman stole somebody else's.
A woman that stole somebody. So they say it's a group of maiden horses running. Those horses stole on.
It's a woman that's been untouched.
A virgin.
A woman that's been untouched and pure. Yeah, a virgin.
A virgin. A maiden. They loved one maiden only. That don't mean they wives now. And they lived for her through years of noblest deeds. And then here come Wesley. Here come Wesley with some more cold shit. The round table lives. Now he jumps down and makes it make-believe again. Only in poetic life and history. They can live again in us. And we can make them live through us. It can continue as a dream. And it can continue again through us. Us means who? Huh? The boule. Now let's go back one. We just heard from Carol Quigley, who talked about the top of the white secret societies. And he says it's known by several names, which you knew that anything you ever read on the Illuminati says we will have numerous names. You will not know it as one name. It does not even go under the name Illuminati. That is that Illuminati you've been looking for.
Oh,
Round table.
that's it.
And the boule will never acknowledge knowledge of it because it's their goal to protect it and keep it secret. Maybe that's why they didn't want to tell.
This is where his father has me right now. let's see. I've noticed lately he's been pointing people out to me that have just out of the blue changed. You know somebody by the name Danny, and how he wants to be called by his legal name, which is Mr. Williams. Or someone you used to talk and get along with is now wearing sunglasses and standing 20 feet away from you, doesn't want near you. Just changes in people's behavior. And this is what's becoming more noticeable, because when people get taken over by entities, most people just don't recognize it for what it is. It's once you learn it, you know it. It's just recognizing it and then deciding, yeah, I know this. I get this now. Because there's so many in our world now. Only 1 out of every 4 people is human, pure human DNA, or just mostly dominant human DNA. That means in a world of about 8 billion, 2 billion are normal. In America, we have 300 million Americans. That means about 75 million are actually normal. When I asked the father about it, I was talking to him about America and asked him how many Christians are in America. And he said 7 million. 7 million Christians out of 300 million. And that's not the ones who he's going to take. That's 7 million that claim they're Christians that might be halfway there. How many times do you see people on TV? They always love God when somebody dies. They're always in churches and funerals. And then during the week, they just live like hellions. Oh, but on Sundays, they be there praising Jesus. And then live like the devil the rest of the week. So we have a real problem with those who are actually the fathers. Those who do what he says. Those who follow him. Because if you're going to church on Sunday, that's probably a good indication you're not. Because Sabbath is Saturday. Seventh day has never been changed by the Father. And it means you're probably pretty much resistant to the truth because apostates don't like the truth. How mind-controlled are you? Most Christians in America are very mind-controlled, religious mind-controlled, because you can't give them the truth. They fight it. They fight against you. Oh, and by the way, the Father doesn't refer to his people as Christians. It was just I don't know what that has, if that has any weight to it, but he knows what I'm talking about. But he doesn't refer to his people as Christians. That's a term given, and that's because it's such a loosely wide term. People call themselves Christians, and they don't do the things he says to do. Just because you consider yourself a Christian doesn't qualify you for the kingdom of heaven. Did he say that the way is narrow? Anyway, folks, it's not. I want to break down because there is such a huge takeover, and I was screaming about it last year, and we were watching all the celebrities get cloned and soul scalped, and everybody on TV that you saw was cloned and soul scalped. All the Illuminati. Everyone who's on TV has to sign the dotted line, sell their soul to Satan, and they're immediately getting soul scalped. But it's all the way down to the local levels, because if you look at secret societies that run the world, and especially America, the Freemasons are probably the biggest. There's probably, several million in the country, if not more. It's a boys' club, and whatever numbers you get from them, you could take with a grain of salt. But you have the secret societies of Freemasonry and all the others enveloped under that one. You have the Eastern Star for the women. What's alarming me is the women. I think that's the biggest thing that's alarming me the most. Because usually when you think of violence and Satanism and grotesque things, the guys just kind of run away with that. But I've noticed a huge switch this past year in that a lot of women have vampire demons. They have vampire spirits. Now, I have a gift where I can detect a person's spirit. It's not like I don't see an aura over. Some people see auras. I don't see auras. But what I can do is discern your spirit. And I certainly can discern a vampire spirit because it's one of the weirdest ones out there. I don't even know how to describe it. But there's no mistaking it. It's just dead. It's like that, you know, it's a demonic spirit. And this one is alarmingly taking over just millions of women because they're involved with Eastern Star, which most local communities want to pass off as just a good works organization like the Masons. You know, they all want to pass that off as good works organizations, and they do fundraisers and stuff. Well, it's part of the Satanic Creed that all of these offshoots of Satanism and the Masons and Eastern Stars are offshoots is to be upstanding members in their communities. You're required to be an upstanding member of your community. And this covers a lot because if someone ever says, Joe and Joe's involved with this, I saw him doing this and this, people would rail against you and not believe what you're saying because he's such an upstanding member of the community. It hides a lot of sins, don't you think? It's a good cover. Oh, they'd never be involved with child porn or pedophilia. They're upstanding members of the community. They do good works. They're all a bunch of slime bags. So, also witchcraft, white or black. You ever run into a witch? I'm a white witch. I'm a good witch. There's no such thing as a good witch. It's like saying there's a good alien. Witchcraft, white or black. MTV has all these shows out about how cool it is to be a vampire or how cool it is to be a witch. Now these little high school girls are falling into that. Cubans, Mexicans, Africans, Islanders, they got a huge problem because they're all involved in voodoo, Santeria, you got Hinduism, Buddhism. New Agers have their source. They always call God the source, going back to the source. It's like a cloning term. They also refer to him as Mother, Father, Mother Nature, Nature, Spirit. God is more like a spirit than a being. You know, Yahuwah is his name. It's the name above all names, Yahuwah. Their God is not the God. It's the Most High God. Because they treat him like he's an impersonal being. Like he's a light. Just a source of light or something. It's very odd, an abstract energy source. And a lot of Cubans are involved in voodoo. I don't know what it is. Mexicans the same way. Mexicans seem to adopt cultic things. And there's some kind of big cult growing up in amongst the Mexicans. I don't even remember the name of it. Something new coming up through them. In America, it just seems like agnosticism's taking over. Agnosticism is, if there's a God, I don't care. Because most people are just living their lives without any thought or focus on the Most High God. It's pretty much like Europe. Europe's a toilet bowl. When I asked the Father where the bulk of his believers are, he told me they were in America and Australia. America and Australia have the majority of believers. There's more Christians, believers, just in Australia than there is all of Europe. Now, what surprised me was Russia wasn't mentioned. Because if you're paying attention to the news and Putin, Vladimir Putin, it just sounds like Russia's going back to its roots. They've got the Orthodox Church in Russia. He seems so much moral and ethical than Obama ever did, or Hillary, half the presidents of the United States. And they genuinely look like they're trying to take care of their people. Let me tell you, Vladimir Putin, I know a lot of Americans like him, but it's because of the image that the media is portraying. Vladimir Putin was cloned, and when he was cloned, his wife rejected the clone. She said, "That's a clone, that's not my husband." And it went worldwide because, it was the same as Saddam Hussein. Remember when he was cloned and his wife, and he came over to America for trial? That was a joke. That was a clone. And his own wife said that was a clone. She dismissed him. And Putin's the same way. His wife's dismissed him as a clone. Vladimir Putin, Vladimir comes from Vlad, which is Dracula. And Dracula is Lucifer in his fallen form on Earth. That's what Dracula represents, Lucifer in his fallen form. In French, the name Putin means son of a bitch. A child born out of wedlock was called a son of a bitch. In America, they're called bastards. Putin is Lucifer's offspring, his illegitimate offspring on Earth. And that's where that all comes from. Putin is Lucifer's son on Earth. Vladimir Putin. So that's who Putin is, or what he is. So we're in a crisis. America's in a crisis right now. We're in a crisis. We've been in one for a long time, but people wouldn't recognize it. People were just waking up. But now you can't. There's no excuse. There's no excuse to even try to escape it. You can go to YouTube and watch videos all day long about shape-shifting humans, or reptilian humans, or cloned humans, or assigning your soul to the devil. All this stuff is being revealed. All this stuff, there's just tons of videos. You can watch them all day long on YouTube. And the thing with all of that is they've all been soul scalped. They've all been taken over. You're looking at 225 million people in America that have tainted human DNA, which means the bulk of them, the majority, are crossbreeds. They're half alien, half human. I'm not talking about contaminated bloodlines where somewhere in your family line you got contaminated blood in it, which is what they call junk DNA. It's actual, we don't know what the heck DNA this is. It's alien DNA. So they call it junk DNA. I'm talking third-party DNA introduced into the mixture of mom, dad, alien. They call it three-party DNA. And even blatantly, just 50-50, half alien, half human. Then you have the replacements, the real humans, which I told you last year was being done. The real humans are being taken off Earth and killed in these fun centers, that they call them fun centers, and then replaced on Earth with fakes, so people didn't know there was such a massive abduction of humans everywhere that they were being taken off and killed for the sport and food. That's why they do it. They like to eat them and they like to kill them. The Illuminati, and when I say this, what I'm talking about is the Queen and the royal lizard family, and the Bushes and the Clintons and the people at the top there at the 1% level. And when they say 1%, folks, you better believe there's about 19% behind them, because it's actually about 20% outright Satanists in this country. The 1% is just the top of them. The rich ones, the ones who got rich for it. There's a lot of Satanists who aren't rich. But they like to have human hunting parties. And that's how William met Kate, because her father was a director. He has the facilities, whatever, and they host human hunting parties. And that's how William met Kate. They have them in America. They have them at Cheney's Ranch in Wyoming, and there's also a ranch in North Carolina, and there's one in Texas. Human hunting parties where they abduct humans. They throw them on these ranches, and then the hunters go looking for them to kill them. I don't even know why I bring that up. But then you have the outright soul scalp, those who get a serpent shoved down their throat, or the reptilian quill is inserted into the back of their eye. How many people have you seen with one eye just looking a little bit different than the other one? Like one's on NyQuil and one's on DayQuil. A lot of the eye deformities coming out of this because they take the eyeball out and stick a chip in the back of it, or caused by the parasite quill itself getting into the person's eye. And I've been talking about how they shove serpents down people's throats. Was that what Madonna did to Drake on live stage? That long kiss she gave Drake, and he just looked like he was disgusted, like he was gagging on something. Was she putting a serpent in his mouth? That's what they do, folks. I have an article on scalping, soul scalping. I did a video on it based on the article and how they do it, soul scalping. America's in a crisis. 75 million are normal. So if society starts to act like it's weirding out and wacky and getting more violent, this is one of the reasons it's getting a lot more violent. A lot of replacement going on. Switching out real humans with fakes. Because they can't just kill off a population. It raises too much awareness. So what they do is switch and replace. Switch out real humans with fake ones. That's what they've been doing in the Arabs, in India, and China for years. That's where they started it in the Middle East. That's why they're just not like us. They're not like us. Most of them aren't human. They're just odd. They're just creatures in human bodies. You might think it's because of the crossbreeding. And they've got worse problems than just being half alien, half demon. That's what crossbreeding is. That's a half-breed. That's hybridization. A lot of them are clones because I was told by the government a long time ago, a couple of years ago, probably back in 2011, a reason a lot of the Indian women and Middle Eastern women cover up their arms, in particular their wrists and the back of their necks, is so you can't see the numbers. Because the clones were given numbers. They were from a series of clones. They would put their numbers on them. They were doing it to the women. That's why they were hiding them and keeping them hidden away. And I ask yourself why they're so strict on the women staying home, being under control, so they can hide their little secrets. That these women aren't even real. That they switched out with fakes and clones, and the real ones were killed. So their little secrets don't get out. That's why they treat women like garbage. The world is in a crisis, not just America. But all this is coming to a head because we're heading into the tribulation period, folks. We're just inches away from a complete pole flip, 7-day pole flip I've been talking about. I've been keeping track of the sunsets every night. If it's over any more degrees, I think it's 5 degrees, we're gone. Pole flip will happen. It's 5 degrees or less. And that could speed up. Or it could just slow down. I don't think it's going to be slowing down anytime soon. I'm thinking it's imminent. August, September, October at the back door, the latest. A lot of people are asking me, well, if I'm homeless, what do I do? You know, go to a basement of a parking garage. You need protection from wind. High winds is going to be a real problem. And a lot of people are stuck in cities. People who aren't, you're in woods, dig out a cave, dig out a trench. Start digging. Anyway, the show is over. I will be back Monday night. I'll see what the Father has to say then. Till then, folks, you can go to my website, SherryShriner.com, click on the donate page, and support the best ministry on the planet. Till next week, everybody. God bless. And hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm Sherry Schreider. A couple things I want to talk about. You know, I was looking over the topics of the week. What seems to be going on in newsland with the mainstream media. And, of course, I just look at it online because I don't watch the crap on TV. But it seems to be the hot topic this week is Susan Rice, and I just had to laugh. Susan Rice, we go way back. You know, that woman has been a part of Obama's team since he was in the White House. And they have an inner group of people. And she was very well a part of that. I mean, if Valerie Jarrett wasn't telling him what to do, it was Susan Rice. You know, him and Obama and Hillary had a love-hate relationship. You know, that's exactly what you would call it, a love-hate, because Hillary's hard to deal with. Nobody wanted to deal with Hillary. And so, you know, happy to deal with her wasn't anybody's lucky day. And so, but he was big on groupthink. And he only liked his inner circle. And so they would get together all the time. And in the Obama White House, everybody did what everybody wanted to do. There was no one person overseeing anything. And they didn't tell Obama what they were doing. You know, Hillary acted like she was president and she ran it from the State Department. And Susan Rice was like, okay, I'll take the hate list and start ordering assassinations on Obama's top 10. Because she came after me several times, and every time she'd try to come after me, you know, her whole plot and plan would practically blow up in her face. But it always came back to her. It was always Susan called that one, Susan called that one. And I remember clearly when Benghazi happened, because Obama didn't even know what was going on. Hillary led the charge on all of that, and everything Benghazi. And when the whole thing went down, they just called Obama into the room and let him watch it. They all watched it on TV, the big screen, little screen TV they have in there. They all sat and watched it go down. But he wasn't the one that led the charge on that, and I've been screaming it for years. It was Hillary. That whole Benghazi thing was Hillary. Susan Rice is just another, well, I don't know what you want to call it. She likes to get involved with things. She likes to be one of the top people in charge, and so, you know, she would help plot and plan assassinations against their top 10 list. And in the Obama house, they always had a top 10 assassination list, and Chavez was at the top. I was at number 2, and Richard Manning was at number 3, and not Richard Manning, David Manning, Pastor David Manning. And he was at number 3. And so they finally got Chavez. And so for the longest time, they kept coming after me and Manning. It was funny. You know, the Lord protects his people. And they learned this. They learned that quickly. And so they would go after 3, 4, 5, and down to 10. And, you know, because me and Manning are both still alive, both still doing our thing. I've never talked to the man, never met him. I find him amusing. I like to watch some of his videos. Because what you want to do is, if you want to get on the top 10 murder list for Obama, mock him. Because he could not stand to be mocked and made fun of. Couldn't stand it. He's the one who had Jay Leno fired. Because Jay Leno kept coming after him and mocking him and making fun of him. And so he had Jay Leno fired. It's like, well, he's got some pull. How come Trump can't get all these idiots in New York making fun of him fired, you know? Bring Leno back. Really piss Obama off. Bring Jay Leno back on nighttime TV and get rid of Kimmel. He's about to lose his mind anyway. The things you have to do to get that kind of position now is just crazy. Crazy, because nighttime talk show hosts are handlers, and they're coders. Like David Letterman. Letterman, he was a coder. He would send signals and codes during his show to the Illuminati and those who would know what those are. You know, that's way above my pay grade stuff, but they always signal and code each other. And so Letterman was the main one. And I don't know about Leno's involvement with all that. I just know Obama hated him because he was always making fun of him. That's why he hated Pastor Manning. He would call him the long-legged Mac Daddy, and he hated that. And so they can't stand to be mocked because they're somewhat narcissistic, completely narcissist. And what's really bad is when you've got a narcissist on top of a sociopath who can't control what and who controls him. You know, you have some of these humans, and I've dealt with this for years, that they're walk-ins. They can be used as walk-ins. Their bodies are like vessels. And demonic entities and alien hosts can what they call walk in, take over that person's human body and operate and work through them. Okay, so that was Obama to the max, because they would just make clones of Obama, and then he would get walked in. These other beings would take over his body and work and operate through him. So you never know exactly which Obama you're dealing with or what you're dealing with, because he's like one of these open vessels. Somebody was asking me after yesterday's show, can all shapeshifters shape into anything they want? No. Obviously Lucifer, because he's the devil. He can show up as a woman in red shoes, or a young athlete. That's the one he typically shows up in, is like the athletic, blonde-looking guy, the real handsome, good-looking guy. That's the one they usually see when they call him up at satanic rituals. They get the handsome, charming Lucifer. They don't get the real one. They don't get the real ugly, reptile-looking being that he is. They don't see that one. I know they have all these depictions of Baphomet, and that was just a made-up drawing. That's not even a real thing, real being. It's just a personification of a goat, Lilith, and Lucifer all in one type of being. Just a personification. He can do anything. He can show up in any way he wants. Other people are confined to human bodies. Now, if a person gets soul scalped, that means they've got a serpent. And I have that article on my website about soul scalping, how they stick this snake down your throat. It looks like a long, slimy worm, like a copperhead. You ever see a copperhead? They look like long worms. At least when they're born, because I see them all the time out here. And I'm not sure it's a snake. And you look at it slithering across the sidewalk or whatever, and it's a snake, but it looks like a long worm. Those are copperheads. That's what they look like. That's what the father showed me. I'm not saying it's a copperhead. I'm just saying something like it. It's some kind of snake, serpent, and they shove it down the person's throat. And that's one way of how they soul scalp them. They also have the what Donald Marshall talks about, the proboscis, the quill of a reptile that comes off of their forehead, and they put it behind the eye of a human. A lot of people get scalped that way. A lot of people, when you look at their eyes, especially celebrities and sports figures, and one eye looks more round and awake than the other one does, one looks more lazy than the other one, it's usually because the one's got a quill behind it, or a chip implant, even. The chip implant look is like when you're looking at somebody and their eyes are so black they look like glass, and they look like they could stare right through to your soul. They look like they're staring right through you, that deep psychopath look. Chip implanted people can do that. I've noticed that. But so can the soul scalps, so it's hard to tell. But you can always tell if something's wrong, because if a person's eyes are the mirror of their soul, then if their soul is dark, you're going to see that through their eyes. That penetrating glare, that evil, that wickedness, because their soul is evil. So they have different ways of taking over humans. The one thing, but they're limited to that human. They can't take that human body and change it into become a female or something, like, whatever they want to do with it. They're confined to that human's body. So Lucifer doesn't confine himself to any one human body. He's not even typically in a human body. Very rarely he takes the form of a human. And when he does, he doesn't do it for very long. It's very uncomfortable for him, he says. So now Lilith, she works through her sisterhood, and this is the growing trend in Hollywood. And if you watch all these high-ranking female celebrities, J-Lo, I think she's the highest. No, I could be wrong. I don't think it's Beyonce. They give her the credit, kudos like she is, but I don't think she is. She's just a high-ranking transvestite with Jay-Z. J-Lo is a witch. To be at the top of Hollywood, you have to be a witch. To be on the A-list, you have to be a witch. To be on the B-list, you have to be a witch working your way up. You have to be a witch. That's what the sisterhood is. The sisterhood is witches. It's the witchhood. And you have to work your way up the ladder. Now, at the top of the levels, the very top of sisterhood, Madonna and J-Lo, and what's her name? I've seen her. She was attacking me one time. Angelina Jolie. They're all very high up in the sisterhood thing. Okay? My point being, when you get that high up, I don't know if it's Lilith or what happens, but they turn into vampires. They're vampires. Those women are vampires. I heard Selena Gomez was a vampire. So it could be something you embrace or adopt when you first join the sisterhood, or it's something that you just become when you're at the top of it. Because Selena Gomez is pretty young. She hasn't earned her stripes and experience in years yet like the others, so I'm assuming if she's a vampire, it's something she just embraced as a child or something. Because I've heard from my government friend she was a vampire. I think I've talked about that before on my show about her. And the Avril Lavigne, I heard she was a vampire. They all get involved with that sisterhood. And you only get invited out to the castle in France. The Mother of Darkness castle is located in France. And that Mother of Darkness, that whole castle, I can't remember the name of it, but it's dedicated to Lilith. And so only the very top of the witches, like Bush Sr.'s wife, Barbara Bush, I think she's the highest ranking. I'm sure it's a Rothschild too, but in America, I think the highest ranking is Barbara Bush. She's a Mother of Darkness. Hillary Clinton, the original, or one of them, was a Mother of Darkness. Trying to think of any names. I don't know if any of the witches, the sisterhood, like Madonna and J-Lo, Angelina, I don't know if they're Mothers of Darkness or not. But if they go out to the castle in France, you better believe that they're high up, because it's a hand-picked invitation type thing. You only get to go out that if you've obtained a certain rank and have proven yourself. Because Lilith is not a human. Lilith can't even materialize in this dimension unless she's taking over somebody's body. Remember, like Obama, who's an access, who's a shill, someone can take over his body? Lilith will use her she calls them her bitches. She'll use them. She could take over their bodies and work through them like soul scalping, possession, but only temporary. Because it'd be very hard for her to materialize in this dimension, because she's kind of in between a fourth and fifth dimension type being. And so a human in the third dimension is not going to be able to see her. She would be very pillowy-like, wispy-looking. But she likes to go on hunts. And so they'll go on vampire hunts. They'll go out vampiring. That's her thing. And so, I don't even know why I'm talking about that. But that's her thing, and that's what they do, and that's the sisterhood. And you can't get acting job and modeling jobs and all these fame and fortune without joining the sisterhood if you're a female. But that's what's at the top of the ranks. That's what you go in thinking you're just going to learn witchcraft. You're going to learn, I don't know what they do, witch things, whatever they do, curses, chants, skip around a black kettle, a black pot. I don't know what they do. But they climb up the ladders. Even the female TV judges, you see, Judge Judy, Judge Millian, the other females, I don't even remember their names. They're all witches. There's a group down in Miami, and they're all, I think most of them are pretty much out of that group in Miami. They were coming up against me for a long time. But yeah, that's what you do. You sell your soul. And the thing that none of them were banking on was they would get soul scalped. They sign their soul for fame and fortune and expect to live a long life with fame and fortune. And then when they die, they resign to the fact that they're going to go to hell because they sold their soul to the devil. Well, what happens now is that when you sell your soul to the devil, you immediately get soul scalped. And so all these people now, and I was warning about this last year because it was going on rampant last year. Everybody on the list, everybody in the sisterhood, everybody in Masonry, everybody in the so-called brotherhood, everybody at that point who hadn't been soul scalped was getting taken over. There was a list. And the enforcers, which are men in black, because that's basically what I saw happening to just the person I've talked about before, where they entered her home and shoved a serpent down her throat. They were like the men in black. They were these huge beings. They're like the enforcers. They had lists. Anybody who was on the sisterhood, anybody who was on the brotherhood list, all got soul scalped. And so everybody you see is basically just a fake human anymore. The real person's gone. Any kind of realness to anything is over. Look at the politicians. Everybody's a puppet on a string. They might as well have somebody's hand stuck to their back. They're being controlled. I gave up on the news because it was just a script. It was it was turning into a script reading. And some of it was so obvious. Because, you know, it takes forever for anything to ever happen in the government, like, you know, bureaucracy. Used to be the ball on everyone's chain trying to get something through with the government because everything was so slow. But now, you know, since last year, the election campaign, everything seems to be happening really quickly, don't you think? I mean, in one day, who was it, Trey Gowdy? Wanted Vince Foster's body exhumed from the grave and sent out the order, and it was exhumed in one day, really? And they did the autopsy, and he was back in his grave in, like, the end of the day, really? I mean, is that script reading at its finest, or what? Nothing ever happens that quick. And then they found somebody else's body in the casket underneath Vince Foster's body was the body of an intern that they'd been looking for. They had killed her and stuffed her in Vince Foster's casket. Crazy, huh? Don't be an intern in D.C. That's like being a scientist. That's like an early retirement plan. They're going to kill you. So anyway, some of you looking for something to do, get your cameras on TV and start getting pictures and video of newscasters and sports athletes and commercials. Daytime commercials are crazy because they're all clones. They're synthetic humans. It's crazy what they do to daytime TV. The commercials. I mean, I can't do everything at once. And so, yeah, that'd be something to do. Getting video and pictures of these fakes on TV. You can send them to me at sherry@shriner.com. I'll put together videos. But it's just, you know, it's all fake, folks. It's all fake. All the humans you see on TV, they're fake. So, this administration hasn't been as much fun for me because I'm not on... Trump doesn't have a kill list that I know of. He doesn't have one. So, I'm not on that because it doesn't exist. And I don't have any contacts there, so it's kind of like whatever. It's kind of different, you know? He's definitely not aligned with Bush and Obama because, you know, 8 years of Bush and then 8 years of the other Bush and then 8 years of Obama, it was like nothing missed a beat, you know?